Okay, thank you. I will welcome everybody to the June meeting of the Human Relations Commission. We'll turn to Mary for a roll call.
Commissioner Alasani?
Here.
Commissioner Chin?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Onan?
Here.
Commissioner Savage?
Here.
Vice Chair Stinger?
Here.
Chair Stone?
Here. Thank you. Do we have any agenda changes, requests, or deletions? All right. And any oral communications? No? Packed house? Okay, good. And we don't have any minutes to approve.
Well, I sent out 3 sets. I sent out the implicit bias and I sent out April and May, but they're verbatim, so they were like 26 pages each. I did hear back from Valerie for the implicit bias, but I called the clerk's office today to find out, because I didn't want to make copies, because 26 pages times 3 times 7. So I didn't want to do that. So I hadn't heard back from anybody for reviewing them. But what the clerk's office said, since they're verbatim, that they don't have the council approve them since they're verbatim. So we wanted to leave, have it out for discussion on, how did you want those minutes to be handled? Did you just want to be having them approved, or did you want to,
What are the options?
Well, the options is that you can just have them approved, so they're not. You don't even have to make a motion to approve them. We just upload them on the internet, on the city site, or you can review them and make changes like you were before.
Well, I think if they're verbatim, we've already heard them once. So I say we just
let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Just upload.
Well, I do have one concern, which is that sometimes people's names are misspelled or the organization is misspelled.
I've been reading them, so I read through them, and if there were things that sometimes they call them crosstalk, where it's just simple talk and they don't hear that, I delete that, so I go through there and I clean it up, or I look at different names. I know there was one thing that Valerie caught that I didn't catch on the implicit bias. There was a name, but so it's up to you.
So it is being reviewed. It's just not being reviewed. It would not be reviewed then by the commission. The council, it's just they don't have time to read 6 hours of weekly minutes. So it's just entered into the record. So that's basically what this would be, entering it into the record.
Well, I trust Mary on her ability to read through it and catch anything. And if you have any concerns, or there's anything that you feel that the commission or a particular commissioner needs to review before proceeding, I think that might be the best way to go about it. Do we need to vote on something like this?
Well, I know the council doesn't, but
No, vote on whether
vote
not.
on that. I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's just procedure.
Does anyone object to Mary just reviewing the minutes and sending them along?
You said you're going to upload them somewhere?
I always do it. They're always up on that HRC page.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if if Mary should ever move on or retire, do we need a formal process that somebody with a certain staff position is in charge of doing this?
Well, there will always be someone in her position that is staff to the HRC.
Okay.
So there will always be, that will fall to the next person in that position.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, so then moving on to our business items. I know tonight we have Raul Rojas from the social. He's a social worker from the Palo Alto Housing, and he's going to come here and discuss the mental health challenges faced by residents at Palo Alto Housing. So, Mr. Rojas, if you wouldn't mind coming and joining us at the table, we got a nice spot here for you.
Thank you.
And just make sure that your speaker's on. If it's got a little red light there, if that's on, then you're good to go.
I think it's on.
Okay.
Can you hear
No,
me?
it's not? Press the little button.
Oh, that's
Okay, good. Now you go. Well, thanks for being here with us tonight. We appreciate it. We look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, first, I want to thank you for your invitation to speak with you about this topic that is very close to my heart and is very important to me in the work that I do with Palo Alto Housing. And an issue that is very important, not only for Palo Alto Housing residents, but of course for the city of Palo Alto at large. I want to talk specifically about our residents because that's the experience that I have directly working with them. I work at Alma Place, probably some of you know Alma Place and the Barker Hotel. We have this SROs, single occupancy rooms. Combined, we have about 130 residents. It's a very nice, diverse community. We have people for almost every continent, from Africa to Asia, Europe, and of course America. And also, it's a very cultural diverse, vibrant, cultural diverse community, and I think it reflects the community at large, and especially in California, we have a big number of Caucasians, African Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos, and people from other countries. Like we have people from Turkey and Iran, Iraq. So it really makes like a very nice mixture of people from different countries, different levels of education. We have people with master's degrees, and people with even PhD, and also people with only a high school diploma, but they're able to really interact in a way that really create sense of community. Educational level, we have also, in terms of health, mental health and physical health is also very diverse. We have people with, in this part of the spectrum, with really severe or chronic mental health issues, and also people who are highly functioning. They hold a job, they have a life, and they are able to survive in a normal environment, normal life. So it is a very, for us, it's kind of like a microcosmos. It's a kind of social place where we want to really feel that everyone, regardless of their mental health status or gender or ethnic background, that they feel included, that they are part of this community. So that's why, even though we have about 20 to 30% of our population with severe mental health issues, we try to really make sure that they feel like they are in the normal environment. And it's like a good practice. It's a good way for them to really learn to live and interact in a society. And that's part of my job as a resident service, as a case manager, is to really make sure that they feel welcome. And at the same time, and respecting that's the other thing, I think, is we also want, if they feel that they want to be autonomous, they don't want any kind of support from us, we'll respect that. But I try to outreach. I really always, whenever a resident moves into our properties, I go and I meet with them. I do an assessment about their needs and situation, and we develop some kind of plan in how to help them to achieve the goals. And if there is any kind of mental health issue, substance abuse issue, we work together in developing some kind of treatment plan with them. But it's always something that they are willing to do. We cannot force them to do it. And of course, it's about building relationships. My role is basically be there, connecting with them, building the relationship, the trust, and whenever there is an issue, a concern, they will come because they know that I'm there all the time. So I have two offices, one in Alma Place at the Barker Hotel, and that's kind of our model is to have a case manager on site because we think that that's a really good approach in terms of helping in the treatment and kind of really helping them to work in taking their medications, working in the treatment, and if they need any help, they know that they can count on me. I work with agencies outside our Palo Alto housing, like with Momentum for Mental Health, the VA. We work with also with the North County Mental Health, Palo Alto Medical Foundation, with other organizations who are interested or they are concerned about mental health. And the idea is once I have a resident who is been diagnosed with any kind of mental health issue, I immediately contact their other professionals who are involved in his treatment. If he has a social worker, psychiatrist, therapist, I want to know, because that's a good way for me to, whenever there is some issue or concern, I can just approach them and say, I'm concerned here about such and such person. We need to work together and see how can we help him. So that's the kind of the team approach that we work with the residents. We also work with relatives. Unfortunately, most of our residents, they are alone. Sometimes they don't have any relative around. And so sometimes it's an issue. But whenever a relative is around, we really want to get them involved in helping us and ensure that the resident is doing well. Issues and concerns. The challenges that most of our residents face is, of course, is the there is not enough services for mental health patients in general. And it's even more difficult to find mental health services for people who don't speak English, other language. So that's a really, really a gap. There is also they are by themselves. They don't have a really support system. What I have observed in my experience working with residents is when the family is around, when the family is involved, and I'm able to kind of build that relationship and connection, we have better outcomes. Usually our residents do well. But when there is no family around, any relative around, it's more difficult. And it's more difficult to really get them into the process. So that's a challenge. We have dual diagnosis. People with mental health issues and substance abuse. It is another big challenge. And there is very few treatments as well for substance abuse. We rely so much on the county. They have a really good system, the county. But most of the services are either in San Jose or South County. We don't have much service, a lot of services in North County for substance abuse. In addition to the mental health issues, there are other health issues. And we have so many people with diabetes or hypertension, or heart problems, obesity, because of some medications really, they gain weight when they take these medications. So we have obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. So it's a mental health, dual diagnostics, substance abuse, and also physical health problems. And it's difficult for them to live a normal life. And what we try to accomplish in our communities for them to feel welcome and create a sense of connection and community. But unfortunately, when they don't feel sometimes that they belong to a larger community, sometimes they feel like they are not really welcome. So that's probably one of the things that is also a concern. Still, we have a lot of stigmas and discrimination for people with mental illness and substance abuse. I think in general, that's all. Maybe if you have some questions, maybe we can talk more specific about the things that you are concerned about.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, we'll open up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a
Commissioner
question.
Savage.
So when an individual does have a mental health episode at the property, what do you do? What is the protocol?
Well, that's a good question, excellent question. We just had one before I came here. And that's part of my job, basically, is like, of course, is to prevent that this happens. But when it happens, is I try to do some kind of crisis intervention, try to get the person a little bit calm, and try to get the person, if it's possible, develop some kind of plan for the future. It's like maybe you need to see your doctor, your psychiatrist. Maybe your medication is not working. If that's the case, that I'm able to build that relationship at that moment, if I succeed in getting the person really calmed down and able to talk, I will develop a good plan, follow up, kind of contacting the doctor, psychiatrist, and make sure that we follow up. If it's not possible, we call for the police. The crisis intervention team, we have a great team here in Palo Alto. They've just been training how to deal with mental health patients, so they do a really good job. We have a really good collaboration with them, and they've been very good in assisting us in treating our residents with dignity and respect, and at the same time protecting the safety of the other people in there.
To follow up that question, I was wondering, because you may have already identified the people, the persons who are in danger of the mental problem or substance abuse. Do you have any specific program sometimes they have to be on medication. And they would not take the medication unless you watch them. So have you had a systemic program? Just make sure they stick on their, taking their medicine. And also maybe you have some counseling service at site to help them out. You have to take medicine and a counseling both sides, to help them out.
When we have developed this relationship and trust, they will come and tell me that they are feeling kind of a little bit off because something is happening. So if they approach me, we do whatever is necessary to really get him or her back in track, taking the medications. I do the monitoring. I make sure that he is doing it, she's doing it. So that's, if it's not possible, because the person is like, we serve people who, it's about confidentiality also. If they live in our properties, we don't want to invade their space. If they are willing to share that information with us, we immediately provide any kind of support. So that's kind of the challenge that we face as a resident service, as a case managers in our property, is that unless they authorize us to intervene in their treatment, we can do it. Otherwise, if they want to remain, but we do as much as possible once they move in to build that relationship and to make sure that they come to us before it's too late, before we reach that level of emergency.
I have a question about, do they get disability? The clients, they do get disability?
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
Is there an issue of confidentiality with their, therapist or their psychiatrist? Is that ever an issue? Because I have a stepson who's had bipolar disorder. We can't talk to his psychiatrist. It's confidential. Yeah. He's an adult. He's on disability. And so I wonder how that all plays into.
Well, in terms of confidentiality, yeah. If they don't authorize us to talk about those issues, we cannot. And so that's kind of the challenge for us. Even though we want to intervene, we know that it's important to do it, but they don't allow us to do it. Yeah.
Do most of them do allow it, or do they?
Unless they sign a release of information, and that's what we do in our intake form. We say, "Will you allow me to speak with your social worker? Will you allow me to speak with your doctor, your family members?" So we make sure that once we build that connection, we have the information that we can speak with other people outside, other helping professionals.
Do most residents agree to that when they? Would you say that there's just a certain percentage of residents who say, "Yeah, that's fine"?
I would say most of the residents. We have really few of them that they decide to remain, they don't want to get involved in any kind of treatment with us or follow up with us, and we respect that. But I would say the most of the residents. And now, if they have like a relapse, and they start, for example, if they have a history of substance abuse, and they have a relapse, and they are in violation of the rules, for us, the management and me, it's a good occasion to really speak with the person and say, we want you to stay here with us. We want you to keep your housing, but we need to help to address this problem because it's affecting other people, and you are in violation of the rules. So that's it. Sometimes, the way also how we kind of encourage them to work with us in the treatment and allow us to speak with other helping professionals outside Palo Alto housing.
Another question I have is that, by your estimate, what percentage resident they have this problem, mental health or substance abuse problem? Just like rough percentage. Among 110 residents, how many of them? 10, 20?
I would say it's about 25.
25%?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty high.
So, Raul, I was curious about a couple of things. So one is, you mentioned that you have residents with very high levels of education, such as PhDs. Are these people who are highly educated but not functional because of mental health issues or other issues? Or do they not speak English well enough to function in their profession in this country?
That's a really good question. Yeah, what we have found is that they have the credentials, they have the education, but sometimes there are some underlying issues. Some maybe psychiatric problems, some psychological issues that they haven't dealt with it that really prevent them to fully functioning and develop the potential by using their education. And sometimes, so that's the answer.
A second question I had was, you mentioned that many of your residents are lacking a support network. They may be alone, they don't have family. Now, is this a case where there perhaps are relatives, but the relatives have disowned them or disengaged from them because of longstanding issues, or some of these folks from another part of the world or another part of the country and they're just far away from their families, or what's the situation?
I think it's both. Unfortunately, some of the residents, they have their relatives probably in California somewhere or in the Bay Area, but they are not really involved in assisting them, and they feel discouraged because probably they have a history of 10, 20 years of mental illness, and they've been really struggling in trying to get the person. Yeah. So they just disappear sometimes, and they are not in the picture. And the other is the lack of social network, social support. That's a really, and I have found that we know that social interactions, social support, social relationships is important for every human being, and it's even more important when you are facing this kind of challenges in your life, and that's why.
Exactly, and then Asian population as well.
It's exactly.
I heard about that.
Different question.
What is the age range of the residents?
Excellent question. We have that's another very great diversity. We have people in the 20s and 92.
Wow.
93. We have one of our residents, she has been with us for almost since the Alma place opened.
Wow.
It's like 18 years.
Wow.
And she's turning 92 this year.
Very good.
So it's a very nice group of people, very at the spectrum, the diversity in ages is also very important.
I had another question about families. Is there any kind of family support? Because families, like you just said, they're really affected by this. Sometimes it's hard for them to be involved because of the stress of living with someone with a mental illness. So do you do any kind of counseling for the families at all? Or provide any resources for them?
Yeah, we provide the services, and when they come to see us and they are involved and they ask questions, definitely we take that as an opportunity to talk with them, kind of educate them about different things, and provide the support that they need in dealing with the situations.
Like, what would that support look like
For us,
for the families? You said
sometimes it's just to listen, just to listen to them and really provide, any resources in the community. But it's mostly listening and try to understand what the struggles and the challenges that they are facing, and kind of confirm. It's like it is. You are not alone. There are so many people that are facing the same situation, and it is difficult. It is difficult. So that's kind of just providing more the support and listening.
Empathic
counseling.
Commissioner Al-Hassan?
Thanks. I know, I'm sure it varies a lot because over 100 residents, but like roughly how long do people stay in Alto Place? So somebody's been there since the beginning, but is it like people, they get their units and then they stay as long as they can, or they send for a while, or is it people are there a year or two and they find somewhere else to go, or what's the average tenure at Alto Place?
In terms of years, I don't have a figure, but I don't know, maybe. But it's people, in general, once they get into Alto Place,
they stay.
It's difficult to find.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
So they say, "I stay until." And it's such a nice location. It is close to downtown, walking distance to transportation. So they know the value of that, and that they stay as much as they can.
I live a block away, so I agree with the location. My other question was, I'm sure some of the residents have, they have a lot of doctor's appointments to go to. Is there a service that, like a shuttle service that goes to PAM for anything like that, that like helps make sure the residents, if they don't drive, for example, like if they have easy access to get to the PAM for a medical facility?
Yeah, we have just we received funding from the city of Palo Alto, I think.
Good.
To kind of have like a shuttle bus to take some of our residents to do shopping. And we take them every week to different locations, and especially for seniors. So and that's now is very, very popular. Excuse me, very, very popular. So we're planning to expand the program for next year. But we have Alto Place, the Sheridan Apartments by California Avenue, and the Barker Hotel. Every week, 2 trips a week. So that's a really good question. And even though that we have transportation close, but some of them don't have cars, and it's difficult to get by.
Can you speak a little bit about how a person qualifies to apply to Palo Alto housing, and how long a wait list is, and issues like that?
Well, in terms of there is some incomes requirements. It depends of the units, and the managers will be more in position to respond to that question. I don't have that because it's kind of very specific. But in terms of what was the other question?
Is there a wait list?
The wait list is probably 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. This is a long. For Alma Place, Barker Hotel is probably less than that, but in Alma Place is 3 to 5 years.
Where's the Barker Hotel? I'm not familiar. Where's the Barker Hotel?
Pardon me?
Where's Barker?
It's Emerson, between Latham and University.
Oh. Okay.
Across from the Aquarius.
And besides the location, are there any significant differences between Alma Place and Barker Hotel?
Location?
Besides the location, is there anything that really distinguishes the two?
Well, the size. Alma Place is bigger. We have 106 residents, and Barker Hotel is smaller. We have about 25. Lower rents. The size of the units is smaller in the Barker Hotel than Alma Place.
Isn't there some difference in the cooking facilities?
And there is that's another good thing. At Alma Place, we have at least a community kitchen, and Barker Hotel, because it's an old building, there is not way to have some So, yeah, so that's kind of in general. In terms of the population, it's about the same. We'll say it's lower income at Alma Place because they pay less, a little bit less in rent. But other than that, it's, yeah, they're about the same.
Is there a sense of community in each residence? And I guess I'm wondering, like, you said 20 to 30% of the people have mental health issues or substance abuse problems. Do they feel that they can access support, just social support from other units, or does each, is there a sense of neighborhood?
In our community, at Alma Place?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, we try. That's probably one of the most important goals that we have as a program, is to try to build that sense of community. So we have a lot of gatherings.
That's what I wanted
Yeah.
to hear.
We have community gatherings. We have a coffee and friends every Friday. People just show up and we talk about anything. We have food with friends twice a week. So we provide some food that is donated by a local company. So we have a lot of opportunities for people to really connect with each other. Sometimes we have Thanksgiving dinner every year. We have a Christmas party. We have other celebrations. So yeah, that's a really good question. The idea is basically, we know that how important it is to create that sense of connection, sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm. Is there ever training? You'd mentioned that for the families there was training on how to listen or how to respond to a question. Is there training for residents on how to listen, how to be supportive?
For residents or their relatives?
For the residents.
Yeah, we have some in the counseling process. We also part of my job in general is very kind of diverse also. I wear different hats. It's case manager, I do resident service, community building, and I also do counseling, support counseling. So I spend a lot of time one-on-one with the residents. And the good thing is I have a background in counseling psychology, so that helps me. And one-on-one, helping them to improve communication, relationships, conflict management, dealing with conflict, mediation. We do a lot of those things. So yeah, that's part of the counseling process that I do. And I spend a lot of time on my day. Sometimes just listening to them. They come to my office. I have an open door policy. So they come to if I'm working on a report, they come just to see me, and I stop whatever I'm doing, and I'm trying to connect with them. So what's happening, what's going on? And they just leave. Okay.
How many people in your position? Are you the only one there to do the counseling as a social worker there? Are there any other you get help?
No, I'm the only one. And the good thing is that we get the funding. That's the thing. I want to really thank you for the City of Palo Alto and the Human Relations Commission for your support, because basically your funding is help us to provide these kind of services. And yes, I'm the only one.
Well, Raul, speaking of services, I was struck by your comment that many of your residents have substance abuse issues, but there's not the services available here in North County that are available in San Jose. So can you tell us what's missing here in North County?
In terms of the
programs or services available that are available in San Jose, but they're not available here.
Maybe like a more outpatient programs, counseling and support groups. We have AA and other groups, which is great, wonderful, but not every person or everyone really feels comfortable with AA. They want more the other type of counseling or substance abuse treatment.
So what would be needed to bring that type of program to North County? Is it a question of getting enough staffing, or is it a question of getting beds?
It's maybe getting more organizations, local or other organizations providing the service in other areas to come here and to provide the outpatient services. And maybe residential. For low income, we are talking about low income patients, the low income residents who have difficulties accessing in general to those kind of services.
So in your mind, what would be helpful? Would it be like a residence-based program, so they wouldn't have to travel? Like a program that would be held at the Alma place or at Barker?
And we have we have a program in place in our county or Palo Alto that is closer to residents. That would be a good outpatient and also a residential program.
You also mentioned that a significant gap was the not having services for the different languages of the different languages that you have at Alma Place. How does your organization help fill that gap? I mean, do you provide translators, or what do you do to help with that?
That's a challenge. That's because when we have, for example, last week we organized a community gathering at the Sheridan. It was more like a community health fair, and we were able to provide translation services for in Cantonese and Russian community and Spanish, because it was a community event, and it was kind of within our means as an organization. But we don't have the resources to really provide services to this particular population, and I think that's a big need. Really having more on-site counseling and mental health services for diverse groups, minorities in general.
And do you see that as a gap across all areas of mental health organizations, that they're not able to meet those needs?
It is. I think in general, this we are talking about is a nationwide problem. It's not just Palo Alto. It's a nationwide. I think that there's a huge disparity in terms of access to mental health services and substance abuse services for minorities in general.
And that's not just up here in North County. You're seeing that also down in San Jose.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just kind of a reflection of what's going on in the country.
Okay. Well, do we have time for maybe one or two more questions? Anyone else?
Do you have volunteers that come to the center?
Yeah, in our program we have a couple of volunteers that we have a health coach. She comes every other week, one-on-one, and talks to them about how to improve their nutrition and health. So that's a good. We have other teaching English as a second language. So that's another important resource. Volunteers, we rely on volunteers.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Another volunteer activity is computer classes, especially for seniors and adults.
That's great.
That's a volunteer base. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here and talk to us. That was really informative and interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, and we'll move on to number 2 on our business list, update on the upcoming landlord outreach event in regards to homeless veterans. Commissioner Al-Hassani, you're up.
Sure. So we are less than 1 week away, June 15th, 8 a.m.
Why, dude? Why?
It's a breakfast. We actually belabored this point a little bit. We debated when best to do it, and we decided to go with the breakfast. I think are we gonna be able to send flyers to the commissioners?
We did once. I can do it again, unless. Okay, I will.
Do you want us to?
I thought in the next door neighbor.
Okay, so I will do that again.
What is it?
If it hasn't
Next
been
door
done.
neighbor.
And I think one of the reasons to add to Commissioner Al-Hassani is when we were reviewing the landlord list for the city of Palo Alto, most of them were individuals. of the 300 or so that were listed, maybe less than 20 were what looked to be large corporations. So we felt like we wanted to catch these people either before they went to work or right after they came home from work. So the 8 a.m. hour is an attempt to get people before they go on with their day. But tomorrow I will send out the flyer for you to send out to people who you know that might be landlords.
And what's the location?
At Mitchell Park Community Center. Obviously, we welcome anybody who is interested to come join. But the specific demographic we really want are landlords and people from faith-based communities who may have housing options. But of course, any and all are welcome. But if you know, especially landlords who may have units available, this is a great session for them to learn about.
Yeah, the intention is to make landlords feel comfortable at the event and hear the information and have them be able to direct the questions, and not really individuals who are just curious about the program itself. I mean, if we can do something else on that.
Yes, so far we have the flyer up. We have an ad in Palo Alto online. We have this has gone to the Realtors Association. This has gone to several city. Minka can speak better than I can about all the different city email groups that it's gone out to.
Neighboring communities.
Neighborhood. Next door. We send out next door.
Yeah.
The city of Palo Alto has tweeted it. I retweeted it.
Project Sentinel, I assume they've been invited.
Yes, I invited them.
And then also, we're doing this with our partners, Destination Home. So they've also been putting on their social media and emailing their respective lists as well, trying to get the landlords recruited for this event.
If it wasn't for Hillary Clinton's tweet today, it probably would have been the #1 tweet.
Yeah.
Oh well. Any questions?
I did have a comment. I received a nice email from Councilmember Karen Holman, who had seen our ad, I think on Palo Alto Online, and she just wanted to extend her thanks to the whole Human Relations Commission for tackling this issue. She's a big supporter of ours, as you know.
I had one question. So what's the outcome you're hoping for?
The outcome is that we get landlords, especially educated about the county's new incentive program. And ideally we get some of them to consider dedicating units and participating in the program, which basically is that they would house a homeless veteran in one of their units, and they get paid through a combination of HUD-VASH vouchers and money from the county directly. That is comparable to what they would get in the market if they were to lease it out.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that update. And now moving on to the update on the Finance Committee discussion of his RAP. Minka?
Right, thank you, Commissioners. So as I mentioned at the May meeting, at some earlier Finance Committee meetings about the fiscal year 17 budget, there was some discussions regarding the HISRAP budget and possible increases that they just wanted to discuss in depth as a committee a little bit more. So it was brought up again at the May 23rd meeting, and thank you, Vice Chair Stinger, who was at the meeting, and obviously Council Member Wolbach. I'm having a brain glitch here. Councilmember Wolbach, who was there as well as one of the 4 council representatives on that committee. So his RAP increases were discussed. There was discussions regarding some significant increases to his RAP. There was discussions about the Emerging Needs Fund that staff had proposed for council consideration, and there was a great deal of discussion about both. At the end, as far as any significant increases to his RAP for next fiscal year, that at this point is mostly off the table. The feeling was this is in the middle of a 2-year cycle for HISRAP. These type of conversations are better had at the beginning of the HISRAP cycle. There was not consensus on the emergency need fund, so at the end of that meeting, further discussion about the HISRAP Emerging Needs Fund was pushed off as an agenda item for when the full council considers the budget next Monday night on the 13th. They also, as part of that, made a referral for the council to consider that would give a specific referral that greater increases, that actually a significant increase to HISRAP be considered for fiscal year 18. And as you may recall, one of the barriers that we've had in the past is council has expressed an interest in increasing HISRAP funding, but a specific referral to a committee was never made. So it was hard to have some of those conversations. Should it be at policy and services? Should it be at finance? So they specifically made that a recommendation that the full council consider referring this item, increasing funds to HISRAP to a committee. So I'm hoping that that very specific referral happens so that for the next HISRAP cycle we can have a conversation about HISRAP. Now I will let you know that what I'm excited actually about both of those things. I'm excited because if they do consider the emerging needs funds for HISRAP, what staff had actually proposed is to take the $50,000 that it was in the reserve fund and convert it to an emergency needs fund. So that it was a wash. It was the same $50,000. It's my understanding that, if there would be an emerging needs fund, it could possibly be a new allocation of $50,000. So the $50,000 in the reserve would stay there for bad times. But this new $50,000 that is being considered would be something that would be an addition to that. So that is a positive. The hope for referral to a committee for increases to HISRAP for fiscal year 18, that I think is a real positive. And the other real positive is a commitment of the Finance Committee to go forward with the recommendation of refunding the collaborative we have with the County of Santa Clara for homeless housing. That's $125,000 for a 2-year commitment, and that is $250,000 for homeless housing is a huge commitment for the council, and staff is really pleased that is going through as well. So that is really where we are now. So it's really up to the full council to decide in which manner it wants to bring up these two items on the 13th. I will, Councilmember Walbach, if you want to add anything to that, you're welcome to. You don't have to feel that you need to, but I wanted to give you an update on that because I know HISRAP increases to the HISRAP program is near and dear to all of your hearts as the recommending body and the review body to Council and Finance Committee on this important program. So I'll take any questions you have. The first.
Can you explain a little bit just what is the practical difference between the reserve fund and what an emergency fund?
Sure.
What does that look like?
How that is specifically different is a reserve fund is, for instance, if this year or next fiscal year or any time in the future, the city is going through tough economic times. And many times what happens is we get the direction from our budget department that says 5% across the board. You need to make cuts to your budgets, or within your department, you need to see a $1 million cut. You can figure out how best that works. So what council did when they approved this a couple years ago is gave the ability that if recommended or needed cuts because of a budget crisis presented itself, that they can access the reserve fund to lessen or negate the hit on the HISRAP grantees. the emerging needs fund would be, if it's a new pot of money, it would be a new pot of money that we could use to help HISREP grantees if something comes up. So 2 perfect examples that I've thought about that an emerging need fund could possibly help. And I'll use agency names not for the fact that they actually came to us, but just so I can illustrate the type of need. So adolescent counseling services, as you know, we had deaths on the tracks last year very tragically, and the need for their services increased substantially. So they could potentially have come to us and said, you know what, if we were in this crisis situation, if we could get X amount of money, it would be really helpful. We could hire another intern at XYZ high school, Gunn or Palo or whatever, to be able to bring another intern in to meet the need of students that we're seeing. Another thing, Abilities United, another HISREP grantee. A couple months ago, you may have read in the paper that their storage trailer with all their camping equipment for disabled adults was stolen. Mm-hmm. So if they could potentially have come to us and said, we do not have the ability to replace this equipment. We are in peril of not having this vital program this summer that meets the needs of these participants, but also gives a needed respite for their caregivers during that time. Could we possibly apply for such a funding program? So that's the difference between the two, how I see it. Now, the emerging needs funds, have we worked out all of the criteria of how that will work? Of course not. We're still waiting to see if that will be approved, and we're waiting for council's direction if they would like staff to go back to them with the specific criteria to have them approve it.
I don't have much to add, but just to phrase it slightly differently, not to contradict what she said, but just another way of thinking about it maybe is that the reserve fund is for preparing for potential decrease in revenue, whereas the emerging needs fund is for preparing for increasing demand. So one's on preparing for emergencies with revenue, the other is preparing for emergencies in needs.
Right. At this point, the human services budget that Mary and I have is so incredibly lean that we are not able to respond to any need in the community. Once those HISREP funds have been decided for a 2-year period, if one of our grantees had a need, we literally could not respond. I mean, part of this emerging needs fund, and that's really the will of the council, if that can be opened beyond HISREP grantees, that if, for instance, a nonprofit that wasn't a HISREP grantee, had an emerging or an emergency need, that they could possibly apply, for funding. I mean, the criteria is not yet set. It needs more thought, but staff is hopeful to listen to council's dialogue on this next Monday night to see where they come out on this.
I have a question just to clarify things. We review HISREP proposal every 2 years, right?
That's correct.
But the budget goes in front of the councils every year.
That's correct.
Minka, I had a question about the possible increase in funding.
Yes.
So is the council contemplating a one-time incremental increase for 2018, or are they looking at sort of a built-in cost of living increase across the board?
It's my understanding, and Councilmember Wolbach would have to get his sense of the conversation. At least the council member who was very much an advocate for this is looking for, if there is an increase, that it is something that is ongoing.
Thank you.
Question. So I recently talked to somebody, it's a church that's starting a shelter for just women.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to apply for HISREP grant, they have to wait?
They certainly do. They would have to wait to that RFP, that request for proposals, will probably go out in December, January, mm-hmm. and the funding would not start till fiscal year 18. So a year from now.
Okay.
So the reason why this is, or Vice Chair Stinger, did you want to go on from there?
Comment. I was at the first Finance Committee meeting where there was where there were words spoken about it's not enough, and maybe we can do more for his rep. I was very enthusiastic. And I've come to appreciate how difficult it is to increase funding mid-cycle. And I'm really excited, and I think we've got if you can have a win-win situation on a budget issue, I think we're in a really strong suit of being able to have extra funding for an emergent need and to be able to administer it fairly. The logistics of trying to change the HISRAP allocation mid-cycle could be such that we wouldn't actually be able to get the funding to the agencies in a feasible during the fiscal year, and it wouldn't be beneficial to the organizations. So in the middle of a very numbers-oriented discussion, I thought that the conclusions that came out in the recommendations were really very strong.
So the reason why this is listed as an action item is during agenda planning, the chair and the vice chair of the HRC felt that it may come up, and this is the will of the commission, that a member of the commission might want to go and speak to the council and say whatever you wanted to say about HISRAP or the possibilities of some changes to the creation of an emerging needs fund or so forth. This is not a staff recommendation. I'm just presenting that was something that was discussed at agenda planning. So if that's something that you wanted to do, you would need to make a motion and authorize a member of the commission to give the HRC's feedback on HISRAP and any possible motions that might be made on the 16th. So that is up to you all.
Yeah, and I'd like to discuss that because we did discuss this at the leadership meeting, and I think both Vice Chair Stinger and I agreed that it would be beneficial to have someone who is our representative, because a lot of times these council meetings, this agenda item may be thrown on there last minute. We won't have a chance to come together as a full commission to discuss it, and I think, as Minka has already said, we're all in agreement of pretty much what we want, and maybe we will disagree on some of the semantics of it, but we all want additional funding, and so I think to be able to have a representative from our commission to be able to go and speak to council. And of course, I think if we have time that we know another council meeting is coming up and one of our normally scheduled meetings comes up, then of course we can discuss further what we want that representative to say. But in case of that emergency, it'd be nice to have a representative. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
And when is that meeting that we?
Monday night.
Monday, you said the 16th?
The 13th.
The 13th, okay.
Next Monday.
On vacation.
I have a class to teach.
I guess I would like to just echo your sentiments. I thought the Finance Committee had such a strong discussion that not to be present and not to support that recommendation feels almost not negligent, but non-supportive. I think we need to be there to be supportive and appreciative.
Well, I would like to say, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That I've been, I think, one of the leading advocates for increasing HISRAP funding over the past few years, and I have addressed council a couple of times in the past. So I'd be happy to represent the HRC on Monday night. I'd certainly love to get my colleagues' feedback on some of the things you'd like me to emphasize. I don't know that I have time to prepare a formal presentation. I probably would just speak during oral communications.
It would be, your option would be during oral communications.
Okay, yeah. So I'm certainly willing to go, and if anyone would like to partner with me and go with me, that would be awesome too.
I was just going to also, I think it would be beneficial if we prepared. I don't know if the easiest way to do this is like if we allocate a subgroup of 3 members to like draft up a statement together on behalf of the HRC. I think if we're gonna ask for money, it'd be good to really have some like data in there that is compelling.
I think right now you just have to
Make it more
have a
informal.
consensus of, if the consensus is
Just
that
have
you
some
are in support of an emerging needs fund for HISRAP, and the motion is that you authorize 1 or 2 commissioners to go to the council meeting and during public comment time express your support for this possibility, then I'm not sure if there's a need for a subgroup to do that. It seems like, there could be discussion tonight of if there's 3 points that you're interested in having the person make, and if there's an agreement of that, and authorizing those people to state those 2 to 3 points that evening. Because I think then, we can't be deciding things over email and having a statement redrafted over email. I think at this point, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if there are 3 things you can agree to, and, depending on how many people are there for public comment time, it's not been my history that, I don't know the controversy of any issues for other departments, but there could be loads of people there. There could be hardly anybody there for public comment time during the budget hearing. It can go both ways.
Well, I do agree that. I think that Commissioner Onan has got a great grasp on this subject, this material. She has presented to council before, and she knows his rep probably better than anyone in this city. So I think he'll be good to go on that. But I would be interested if Vice Chair Sting would be also interested in joining you, since you have been following this very closely.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. And feel pretty strongly that we could put together a good 2-minute statement.
Great. Well, I'll make the motion to appoint Commissioner Onan and Vice Chair Stinger as our HRC representatives to address council on HISRAP funding.
Second the motion.
Great. And so we got a second. All the ayes? Aye. Any nays? All right. Great. Then the motion passes. Thank you very much, Commissioner Onan and Vice Chair Stinger. On that, does anyone else want to make any recommendations on what should be some talking points on this issue, or just trust the two of you to go ahead and represent us?
Well, I've given some thought to it, so I could maybe give you a dartboard, give you an idea of what I might like to say, what I might like to share, and see. I would like to thank the Finance Committee for its prudent discussions and careful thoughtfulness. I'd like to support the Reserve Fund and the Emerging Fund, and particularly support the proposal to have a major increase in the fiscal 2018 HISRAP budget. So basically just supporting the recommendations that are on the table.
I think the one is more a referral to staff to come to our committee to where a greater conversation of HISRAP can take place.
Sounds good. Yes, Councilman Wolbeck.
Well, just to piggyback on something that staff mentioned earlier, since this is an action item, if the HRC wants to make a formal motion supporting particular points, even if not supporting the exact wording of what the comments would be, but supporting any particular points, so that it's, we've heard that as a council that's really representing the HRC. That would probably be useful if you wanted to put whatever talking points you want into the form of a motion.
Thank you.
Yeah. So those would be, the 2 motions that I discussed earlier. One is for the motion that came for the Emergent Needs Fund, and the other was for the specific referral. But if you can refer back to, I think that's what Councilmember Walbach is saying, refer back to those specific recommendations from the May 23rd Finance Committee meeting, that the HRC is in favor of both those very specific. Is that more powerful?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understood the question.
Okay. You said it was useful that the HRC very specifically spoke to motions that the council had made previously on the topic at hand. So I'm asking you if they should refer back to those two specific motions from the May 23rd Finance Committee meeting.
I don't want to make recommendations to the HRC.
I understand.
I just want to suggest that if they are able to take a vote and have a formal motion on whatever the recommendations are to us, the council, that would be useful for us to have clarity from the HRC on what your position is.
Yeah.
Whatever your recommendations are to us.
I want to make it clear. One thing I heard from your report is that we have separate the reserve fund versus the emergent needs fund. We want to keep both.
Right.
Rather than combining together. That's one thing I understand. Is that one motion?
That could be part of a statement, but the statement that you make has to be the opinion of the HRC.
Yeah, we could raise that specific question about separating.
If you so desired, you could do so.
Right.
All right, well then, how about I'll try to come up with a resolution on the fly here, if that's okay with our chair and vice chair. So what if we resolve that we support the two recommendations that came from the Finance Committee at their May 23rd meeting? The first being to establish an emerging needs fund that would coexist with the already existing reserve fund of $50,000 each, respectively. And second, we support the recommendation to refer the issue of increased funding for HISRAP to a specific committee to be discussed in more detail in the future. And we would like to work with council further if these things are passed.
I have a question about your answer. It's your specific committee. That means a committee from HRC that we can discuss?
No, the Finance Committee.
Okay.
The Finance Committee or
I wanna make
Policy
sure
and
I understand.
Services.
Yeah. Okay.
The Council Committee, yes. Not us.
So do my colleagues feel that I know that wasn't super articulate, but I was trying to just
Pretty
get
good
the
on the
gist.
fly.
Yeah. Do we feel like we could approve that kind of resolution?
Yes.
I think so.
Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. I knew that was going to happen.
Good. So was that a motion to
I'll
approve?
make the motion that my on the fly resolution. I'll put that before my colleagues if anyone wants to tweak it or change it, and then maybe discuss. And if not discuss, then can we second and approve it?
A second.
Great. We have a second. All those approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstain? No. No nays? All right, wonderful. Then the motion is passed. Thank you very much for that on the fly. Very articulate.
Very.
Nice job. All right, great. Well, then if there's no further discussion on his wrap, we will move on to our reports from officials. We'll start with.
No, not yet.
Whoa, where are we at? I'm sorry.
Oh, Valerie.
Sorry, Valerie. All right, our next is update and the next steps from the recent report on implicit bias. Vice Chair Stenger.
Okay, I will give you a quick update. The same committee or same task force that met for the March forum has been meeting. That would be Rabbi Lewis, Pastor Smith, Minka Mary, Commissioner Gordon Gray, and myself. And we've been examining ways to follow up with the implicit bias forum. We've looked at social events, and we've looked at more serious content events, small events, big events. And and we came to a conclusion yesterday at our most recent meeting that the way that we would meet our objectives of community building and conversation and dialogue would be a series of roundtables conversations that might be held over a period of a year, every other month, with a very diverse audience and a set conversation guide or topic guide. We realize that there are models for this, and some have been successful, and we decided that, or we proposed that our next step would be to do some benchmarking, doing some research with the success factors and hurdles so that we can be successful in putting our program together probably in the fall. One of the things we realized as we were doing this was that we're an ad hoc committee, but we're proposing something that we want to do very well and sustain it over a longer period of time. So we're going to recommend, or we're going to change the orientation and ask staff to help take this on. Instead of staff supporting us, we're going to support staff. It fits in with the community building charge that Human Services has. It gives it more validity, more stature in the community, allows us to access resources that we really can't do as an ad hoc committee. We'd still like to have commissioners working with staff. We have support from Rabbi Lewis, Pastor Smith, and we can recruit other community members to go forward.
Is it okay with staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, staff is really staff, Mary and I, the Grand Human Services staff. We're really excited. Mary and I have been in dialogue for a while now to expand what we're doing in what we call community connections. And that's reaching deeper into our connections with the nonprofit community, the faith community, and working on issues of importance in the community. And we really feel like working on this issue of bias, bringing people together to have important conversations, is kind of core to what we think the Office of Human Services should be about. So this was on our work plan to do, and we're really happy that we have a community-based committee that is working with us on that, and are happy to invite more people to join this committee of supporting the work that Mary and I would like to do in the community.
I wanted to just share that another resource for this ongoing program of conversations might be the Palo Alto Mediation Program. They have just trained a whole new sort of cohort of meeting facilitators. These are people who've had very special training beyond what the mediators normally get. And I know that Anki and Martin Eichner have just sort of deployed them for the first time at the most recent Mountain View HRC roundtable. And they were a big success there. And they're looking for opportunities for the facilitators to come in and use their skills. And I believe this is all pro bono. So wow, I would really encourage staff and Commissioner Stinger and her team to reach out. And I can put you in touch with Martin Eichner if you need his email.
No, I have it.
I figured Minka knows everyone. But yeah, I thought the facilitators did a great job at the Mountain View HRC roundtable, and I think that they could really do a great job in facilitating these kinds of conversations as well.
I just had a question about, you said you wanted to do some benchmarking. So you're looking for different frameworks or structures for the conversation. So if I have one, like that we talked about the World Cafe, and I have an expert in World Cafes, I should refer them to you, or I should...
That'd be great.
Okay.
We have a list of about 9, I think, organizations that we'd like to benchmark, and
Right, and the Human Services will have an intern again this summer, and we feel like this is a wonderful, good use of his time to really be able to work with us to create a really meaningful program for the community in which we can have important conversations.
So this is really moving this issue, this ad hoc committee, outside of the HRC and into the purview of Human Services. Great.
that's exactly what it is, and that just gives me a great deal of excitement that we test something and we can formalize it, and it'll be much more sustainable going forward.
Yeah, that's great. Well done. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Vice Chair Stinger. And now, let me just double check. Okay, now. I knew I had to make one mistake on my first meeting. Now moving on to reports from officials and commissioner reports.
I have a report, and I went to see the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. They have a film show on the 17th of May of last month at the Aquarius Theater about Buena Vista. It was a very good film, very well done. And basically the film they interview several residents there and talk about their stories and showing their lives there. It was pretty good, and then followed by discussion. Yeah. Just wanted to share with everyone who are interested. Actually, the person who in charge is called Voon Ben Nguyen. Yeah, this person I met him. Yeah. So it's done, well done.
I had something. I visited the Downtown Streets team. That was one of my his rep visits. And I met this gentleman who was in a special journalism program at Stanford, and he made a film about the homeless people from Downtown Streets team. And he got some kind of technology from Google where it's kind of this panoramic film where you see sort of all sides of where the person is, so the person and then their surroundings. And anyway, he's an interesting fellow, and he did this project, and I guess Nadine knows about this. On the 29th of June, there's going to be this media blitz about homelessness. So every media outlet in the Bay Area is going to cover this. And anyway, I thought he might be an interesting speaker, and maybe we could see his film. And
What's his name?
Jamie, I don't know his last name. Nadine, do you know? He said he just met you. Do you know who I'm talking about? He's like a journalist.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if this is he came to the homeless event last.
Yeah,
October.
he did.
I have his email.
I do too.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I don't remember his last name, Jamie, but he's an interesting guy. He lived in El Salvador for 2 years as a reporter, and so he's been around. He's a young guy. He's ambitious and interesting. So.
How long was this video?
I don't think it's that long. I could find out. If it's 10 minutes. I mean, what would be our max?
Probably
15,
half hour,
half hour.
20 minutes, half hour.
I mean,
want me to email you or talk to
Yeah,
you?
you can email me, or staff could look into that with our contacts at the streets team.
Well, okay. I mean, I can give you his
Yeah,
contact
if you have
information.
it, that would be wonderful.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, I know I left you all on a cliffhanger at the last meeting with my...
Big news.
Yeah, she said yes. So,
Mazel tov.
well, thank you. We'll see if she changes her mind, but for now, well, all is well. So, I got photos for anybody who wants to see. Plenty of photos.
Sure.
Any other commissioner reports?
I went to the, yes please, I went to the age-friendly task force meeting yesterday.
What is it called? Age-friendly?
Age-friendly,
Age-friendly, got it.
part of the Healthy Cities Initiative.
Oh, right.
She spoke with us. She did some backgrounding at that meeting for a professional group that was joining. And that was much the same as we heard in our session. But she said one thing that really pleased me. And that was that a lot of the goals that WHO has identified for a senior segment are the same goals that the millennials have. They want urban density, vitality, small houses, walkable communities. And so as we start to work those goals, it just struck me that this is age-friendly. It's not age isolation, and we're building a better community all around, and it just was very motivating. The next step for that group is to do some professional focus groups and then start to do the needs assessment so they can make their recommendations. So that was my report.
That's great.
Well, also, Vice Chair Stinger and I went to the Palo Housing Corp a few weeks ago, and we met Kate. I don't remember her last name. Yeah,
Kate,
she
Kate
was great, and I just took a few notes. We went to 360 Sheridan, where they have senior and disabled people, 57 units. Each unit has a kitchen as well as a community kitchen where there is donated food, and it's really a very nice facility. And they offer cooking lessons, they have many activities, they have a coloring book club, They have a pool table there, a grand piano in the room, and it's just, it was a lot more than I expected. Our HISREP funds provide their transportation service, which includes taking them to La Comida for lunch or the Mountain View Senior Center, or they go shopping at San Antonio Center, they go to Grocery Outlet and Safeway. And those are also the first things to go if they have less funding from us. Half their residents no longer drive. They also have a podiatrist who comes in once a week to look at their feet. And they have a computer lab. There's a 3 to 5 year waiting list to get in there. The list is now closed, but when it does open, it opens one day every 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
And they gave the example of Websterwood, which is the other end of downtown. They recently had a one-day open, and by 7 a.m., the line was around the corner, and they had 300 to 400 applications.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I can add on to that, I went on then to another facility or another residence and saw the daycare after-school program that they do, and an outstanding program. One of the things that Kate Young said was that they can't do a preschool program.
Wow.
And so the opposite sentence, if funding were increased, they'd be able to do some preschool work and help the residents' children be ready for school, as well as keeping up with their classmates.
Yep.
It was a great visit.
Wonderful. If anyone wants great visits, there are 2 coming next week. And one is go to the adolescent counseling service. They move up to the Redwood City, another site. And another one, and so on Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. The other one is Vista Center for the Blind. It's right in Palo Alto here, we're very close. It's about 2 o'clock. And Friday. I'm recruiting people to come with me.
When is the Center for the Blind one?
It's Friday afternoon.
Did you say 2 p.m.?
Tomorrow afternoon?
No, next Friday, next week, next Wednesday, next Friday, 15th and 17th. Please email me.
For Vista, did you say that was 2 p.m.?
It's 2 p.m. It's 1:30 actually, 1:30.
And what is it for the blind? What's your
Vista Center for
Vista,
the
okay.
Blind. Yeah.
Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. is the
Visual
full name.
impaired, it's a whole name, yeah. They had a temporary office at the Hillville. It's right near hospital,
Right.
near that area. Okay. Anyone interested? Let's go together.
And any other reports? All right, then I go on to our council liaison report. Councilmember Woolbeck, you got anything for us?
A couple of things. One, actually something I attended recently, and I saw a commissioner, and vice chair, staying around, right? At an event this past Sunday that was moderated, and I think maybe organized by the gentleman who had moderated your implicit bias event, Pastor Coloma Smith. It was called the Night of Hope, commemorating a year. It was just this past Sunday at the First Congregational Church over on Lewis at Embarcadero. It was this past Sunday. There were representatives from a number of faith communities and from throughout the community there. I also saw Councilmember Berman there as well, and it was commemorating a year since the Charleston shootings at Mother Emanuel Church, and focused on trying to heal the community and heal the country, and ensure that Palo Alto in particular can be a welcoming and diverse place for the future. On another note, I know that this commission has been interested and active regarding exploration of revamping the city shuttle program. You were instrumental in collecting feedback from seniors in particular regarding the use and hopes for the future of the Palo Alto City Shuttle. City staff was working on a revamp proposal to bring to council, and due to some losses of staff members to other opportunities elsewhere, and also due to the uncertainty resulting from VTA's proposals to change and perhaps eliminate much of their service of buses to Palo Alto, that will not be coming to council for several months. So that has been significantly delayed. And on an alternative note, I've been hearing some discussion. Bless you. I've been hearing some discussion about bless you twice. The possibility that our nascent TMA might be an agency which the city could potentially hand off operation of the shuttle to at some point in the future, should council decide to pursue that as a policy, and should funding be adequate for that to happen. So just one of the points of discussion. There's a discussion on Monday about the future of the TMA following the discussion about the budget. So that should be quite interesting, especially considering the TMA funding plans for 3 to 5 years range from about $2.5 to $3.5 million, but staff is only asking for 100,000 right now. So I'm looking forward to that discussion.
Thank you very much. And Minka, do you have a liaison report? Staff liaison? Okay. Well, anyone want to suggest anything for the tentative agenda for our next meeting on July 14th? Yeah, I guess so.
I think what we'll try just to. Sorry.
No, I was just going to suggest. I know we recently had the technical guy from the police department, Zach Perone, but we haven't had the chief lately. So that might be an idea if he's available.
Yeah, we can check into that. I know that he specifically wanted to come when the body camera policy was more defined, but we could definitely check into that. What I was going to interject is, so tonight we had Rural come to us, which is really a kickoff for a mini or a longer mental health series. So I can look back at my notes, because at one point we had brainstormed some names of individuals that could come for that mental health series. So it's somewhere in the binder. So we can look for a second person to come for our mental health series. Do you recall, Chair Stone, who... I'll look at the list.
I have to look through my notes.
Yeah, I'll look at the list, and then Mary or I will make a contact to try to get someone as part of that series to come to us.
Well, should we see if Commissioner Savage is able to get, since you are our primary liaison to the police department, to see if Chief Burns is available for that day, and if not, then we can go with whomever was on that list that we put together?
Or I can give you Jamie's contact information if you want to invite him.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, let's take in all the ideas, and then we can see what's possible. But if you want to make that and you give that to me, we usually just try to have one speaker.
I understand, but if you were looking for a speaker and he can't do it.
I hear you.
Okay,
yes.
So he's the first choice at this point.
Is that the consensus?
I think so. You're right. We haven't had Chief Burns here in a long time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay.
So other agenda items could be, I think that will be the day before the landlord event, or that will be after the landlord event.
Sorry, remember that next week.
Yeah.
Right, so then maybe an update on the landlord event. And then I don't know if we'll have any input from council yet, based on the meeting that we're going to attend Monday. Do you know, Councilmember Wolbach, will anything have been decided by then?
About the HISRAP?
About the HISRAP, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Budget discussions will happen primarily on the 13th. There's holdover on the 20th.
Okay.
So that could be agenda item, or I could just give the results during my I'll probably just send you an email for those that aren't able to attend the meeting, but I could do that in my staff report for next time.
Perfect.
And it looks like there's 2 items on here already. The retreat, do we have a hard date for the retreat?
Yes, the 11th.
That's not for the retreat. Is August 11th?
It's the same day as when I did the doodle. I did the week of August. of the 18th, or whatever week that was. That's
Right.
Thursday what our regular meeting was, and that's the date that was what?
August 18th?
11th.
I mean the 11th.
So
Okay.
that's going to
Okay.
be our
There were 2
meeting
days,
for.
Right, I
and
gotta do it. I
the
gotta
11th
put it
worked
off.
for everybody.
So that's going to be our meeting for August. We're not going to have a separate HRC meeting.
Any other suggestions?
Are we going to talk about the study session on September 12th at the August meet? Well,
Yeah, it's already on the tentative agenda.
No, I know, but when are we going to talk about actually preparing for that? Or is there
We can talk about that at the,
retreat
no, that's on the tentative agenda already for July.
for July? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Wonderful.
see. Duh. Got it.
And Minka, I just wanted to confirm the date for the study session, because for some reason I had the 19th down on my calendar, so was it
It
definitely
went
the
from
12th?
the
11th.
the last week in
12th.
August to the 19th, but we did settle on the 11th.
The
So I
12th?
can, the 12th, boy, do we?
12th of September.
I know.
You sent us an email September 12th.
I did.
Yeah.
So I will resend a confirmation out for September 12th.
Yeah, I will
But I
be
did
around
send
that
that out.
time. I'll be in New Zealand.
Ooh, lucky you. We'll Skype you
That's
in.
what's messing us up, is it's right on top of the agenda.
All right.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. And with that, we're
Right.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.